Yes. Okay, cool. Okay, man, class 10. Thanks for sticking out with me, guys. I appreciate it. Man, today we're just gonna go over all the extra goodie bits at the very end of Animbot. Some would say like the most useful stuff, actually, just for ease of use and for like speed. I use these quite a bit, but you know, very rarely do I actually go and navigate to the buttons. I normally have them bound to hotkeys and stuff. You guys may have seen already. I can go over my workspace actually if you guys want. Normally when I work, there's barely anything in my Maya showing. Let me see if I can kind of mock up what my like workspace looks like. That'd probably be a good thing to get warmed up on. Before we get in all those extra tools. Yeah, I normally have a 3-panel layout. And then let me go to my UI elements. Okay. I don't have that. I don't have my range slider. I don't have my help line. I don't have my toolbox. I don't have my command line. And this is normally like off of my screen. And then most of the time when I'm working, let's say for example, let me see if I can mock it up or if this will detach for me. Probably not because I'm locked into Classic, but normally all this will be off my screen too. And even my taskbar, this will be gone too. And it'll pretty much just be my shelf, these 2 viewports, and the time slider and the graph editor or the dope sheet. Although in 2020, I guess I won't be using the dope sheet since it's not there anymore. That's the way I like to work, and then everything else I just have on shortcuts. And while I'm working, I don't have curves showing at all. The way I select things, I may have mentioned this before, but the way I select things is normally through selection set or through a picker that I have on my other monitor over here. But just for this class sake, I intentionally left everything on the screen, and I intentionally did not use the shortcuts that I normally use. And by the way, since this is our last class, and since we'll be going over like all the extra bits of tools in Animbot, I thought it'd be interesting just to tell you guys a little bit about the way I work in my setup. Also, when I work, I use a Wacom. I use a pen. I don't use a mouse, just because like it'll wear and tear on like on the possibility of carpal tunnel and all that. And I use a gaming pad. I don't use the keyboard. I can't even, the cord is so short that I can't, maybe I can, all right, timeout. Let me borrow this. Cool, okay. There we go. I use a gamepad like this. Oh yeah, X keys works too. I like the keypad, or I like the gaming pad only because, yeah, there you go. I like the keypad or the gaming pad because 1, it's cheap. 2, it's ergonomic. It's not quite as flat as the X keys or the, I forgot the other one, the something. I don't remember what they're called, but it's the competitor to X keys. But yeah, this is really ergonomic, and I like the joystick. It kind of reminds me of being able to flip back and forth between drawings. I'm a pretty old school guy. I started in 2D, and so having that really helps. And like being able to flip from left key to right key with just the joystick is pretty nice. What else? I guess we could just start going over the extra tools. There's a bunch of extra stuff in here. This ellipses right here, this pretty much has all the extra tools of Animbot, and like I said, there's a ton of useful stuff in here. And the way that I find these things to be most useful is if they're bound to a hotkey. If you actually have to go and navigate through the extra tools and actually select the thing that you're looking for, it's a little bit time consuming, and there's a lot of overlap in the tools. It really depends on, it depends on the situation that you find yourself in often. Because, if you work at a certain place and you find yourself doing a certain thing or a certain set of things over and over again, those tools have become really, really handy to you. Especially if the pipeline that you're working in dictates a certain something that you can't get away from, right? Let's say, the example that I had last week was that if you're working on maybe a game or its cinematics, right? Or like an in-game cinematic, a lot of the time the character model that you're working with, you can normally hide them like piece by piece, right? If you need to isolate select something, but sometimes, like when you're doing cinematics for a video game, the entire mesh is one mesh. You don't get to hide things by piece. So hiding them by face, with the selection set, and actually there's a tool in here that'll actually sync your isolate select. This isolate select is okay, but it's only for one viewport. The Animbot one actually has one that'll do it for all viewports. And I have that hotkey lined up, or I have that hotkey synced to the normal shortcut of isolate select, which I think is like Alt H or something in a viewport. I can't remember. But you know what? Let's just start going through these one by one. I'm going to tear out this menu so that I don't have to keep going through it. And just know that this menu is pretty much the ellipses here. All of these, I think I went through already. This is the automatic smart Euler filter. This is the overshoot. These are the pop-ups. These are some of the things that I actually went over earlier. And those are the snapshot. This is some stuff that I went over in earlier classes, so I won't go over those again. At the end of the class, I will show you guys some of the scripts that I use. Just to keep organized, and and I'll even share those with you too. Some of those were written by me, that I'll actually give to you guys if you guys want them. But again, it's nothing huge. They're more so quality of life tools than anything else. You know what? Before we start, did you guys have any burning questions? Sorry again for starting so late. I appreciate your guys' patience and understanding.
Not questions, but I just wanted to let you know that you remember the thing I told you about the weird vending machine thing messing up with my curves?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, it stopped happening. I don't know why. Like I played a little bit with the Euler filter. Like I just disabled the button from Animbot of the Euler filter, and also when the last couple of times that happened, like I went to the graph editor and ran the Euler filter. And it fixed it right away.
Oh, good.
So yeah, and since then it's never happened again. So I don't know. It's a miracle. Thank you.
So let me ask you something. Now that it's not happening anymore, do you have the smart Euler filter active?
Yeah, it's on. It's on right now.
It's on. Okay.
Yeah. Huh. And it's not happening again. So I don't know. Maybe it was. Who knows? Maybe it was like the specific files that I was working on, or who knows.
That's very, very common, and that could very well be the case. But I'm glad to hear that it worked for you, and I'm glad to hear that it's not the smart Euler filter. The only reason I ask is because if it was because of the smart Euler filter, I would have reported that to Alan. That way he could fix that for everybody, the community at large. But I'm glad to hear that it's not that.
Yeah. Like,
that's awesome.
I'm not sure what was the real reason behind it, but like it just stopped.
Well, cool. Good news. Glad to hear it. Yeah. Okay. Anything else, or should we just go ahead and get started? Sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
Hi.
Hey.
I wrote a question on Slack, and
I'm sorry, I might have missed that.
It doesn't matter. It's not really Animbot related. I was just wondering about meshing IK to FK, if you have a particular workflow for that, or a specific plugin maybe for a generic rig, because I have some, but they're working just with the with the rig they came from.
Mm-hmm.
And but sometimes I have to work with different rigs, and those don't have actually the matching like AFK. So
Mm-hmm.
I have a workflow. It's a little bit time consuming though.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering if there were more ways to do it or something like that.
There are there are a few ways to do it, but if you're looking for something that's going to work with like every single rig that you like work with, or something universal across all rigs, I don't think that quite exists, only because the way that the rigs are built are always different. Sometimes they'll have like a 4 skeleton setup or a 3 skeleton setup, or maybe even more if it's for different uses, you know. For like a standard like AAA game, I know they have like a 5 skeleton setup, so the IK-FK matching is always different because of the hierarchies. The only way that you would be able to do it like with matching would be to something that would work for all rigs. It'd be some kind of a setup or some kind of a tool that would happen on top of the rig, and not necessarily a script that would work under the hood, if that makes sense. Only because well, one, I mean, the biggest one would be like, the rotation orders of the joints may be different. The hierarchies of the controls may be different. The hierarchies of the actual skeletons may be different. Like the pull vectors might be averaging out a different way than the other. I know that's not the best answer or what you might want to hear.
So if you don't have a script actually, or you don't have a plugin with the rig you're working on, I know probably you always have it because in big production that's what happened. But how would you do it? Because I used to create locators and matching by let's say imprinting values on the locator and then matching the IK to the locator.
Mm-hmm.
So by snapping the controllers, I can like match the bot skeleton to the same coordinates.
Yep.
But with the rotation of the FK, it's not really. I have to eyeball it. It's not really something I can position.
When you're going from IK to FK or FK to IK?
When I go from IK to FK, I have to eyeball it.
Okay. So the best way to do that I would think of is actually, you know what? I can demo it after class if you'd like. It does involve locators, and it will involve like a hierarchy setup, but it's going to have to. You're going to have to go under the hood into the rig in order for it to work. You're going to have to get access to the rig joints, not the skin joints.
Okay.
And for each rig, it's different. Only because like some rigs actually have the rig skeleton skinned to the mesh, but at other times, like you'll have a whole skeleton just skinned, and then there will be other skeletons on top of that will drive the skinned skeleton. And so when you switch from IK to FK, you're actually switching between skeletons.
Between skeleton, I know.
Yeah. So in order to do that, in order to match it like the long way, right? It's something that would work across all rigs. You'd have to go under the hood for sure. I can try and demo that after the class if you'd like, if that's something you're interested in.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, sure. No problem. Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's get going with all these tools. So per the usual, I am going to just have everyone muted for now. That way we have this chunk intact. We're just going to go over these tools one by one. So like I said, we are going to go over the extra tools today that they can be found here in this ellipses. And again, I find the best way to utilize these tools is to bind them to shortcuts, because you can see like how many tools there are, just in the toggles alone. The toggles, okay, let me start at the top actually, because this is like actually super, super handy. Okay. A good thing about all these extra tools is that there are no frills about them. You know, they're really intuitive, and you know, pretty much what they're named is exactly what they do. I'll tear this off for now. So in the Anim Curve extra tools, right? The apply smart Euler filter, that's only if you want to leave this off and you want to apply the smart Euler filter. But you know, what's great about this is, let me select the curve. And I actually don't have any rotations that would flip. But anyway, let's say this, for example. What's great about this, I'm going to make my graph editor a little bit bigger. There we go. What's great about this, the smart Euler filter, as opposed to like the normal Euler filter in Maya, when you apply the Euler filter in Maya, it'll re-evaluate all the curves. When you do it with the smart Euler filter, you can do it with the curve selected, so you can do it only over a portion. This is probably like the most useful thing about the smart Euler filter. If you know that you're going to have a character, depending on the way you animate it, right? Like if you know you're going to have a character going past 360 degrees, like if they're flipping or if they're doing something real crazy, you may not want to have this checked, only because past a certain point, it's going to try and reevaluate. And so the flip won't continue, you know, depending on how you have the flip happening. Whether you have an offset control, then you might be okay. But if you're doing it like traditionally, then, you know, using the smart Euler filter only on places is great, as opposed to using the Euler filter in Maya, which will affect all of the curves. Clear animation, it's basically just a button to clear all of the animation. The crop animation is kind of cool. This is nice for like maybe when you have, unfortunately, and this will happen to you if it hasn't happened to you already. Let's say you get a shot finaled and you know it's approved. Hooray. But then, it's not approved all of a sudden for some reason. And you have to change a whole lot. And all you can keep is like this. And everything else you have to delete. So, 1 second. You know, you can pretty much, if this is the only part that you can keep, if you can select that, you can go to crop animation. Oh, sorry, I just did it. I think you just had to calculate. Or maybe I can select my curves. Yeah, it'll pretty much delete everything outside of that. I'm not quite sure why they. Oh, I think it's because those are on cycle. Let's say this dude. Crop. Huh. Crop. There we go. Let me turn this off. Yeah, there we go. And sadly, you'll have to animate everything past there and everything behind there, if that happens to you. And if it hasn't happened to you, be prepared, because it will happen to you. Removing redundant keys. So what this does is it'll filter through your selection and it'll look for keys that are neighbored by keys that are the same, right? And what I mean by that is, let's say, let me find an example. Actually, I may not have an example here because I don't do that. Yeah, darn it. Okay, let's say, for example, you can see when I flip through these keys, this is pretty much empty, right? But let's say when I was setting keys, I was hitting S on all of this, right? You can tell that these are redundant keys, only because the neighboring keys from here to here, here to here, there's no value change. And so when you hit remove redundant keys, it'll get rid of those keys. It's nice to it's nice to turn that on once you're close to finishing your shot and you may hand it off to someone. That way there's not a bunch of other keys that like someone else has to deal with. But you got to remember though that once you run that, and let's say that you want to, let's run that again, for example. Was that on RX? Yeah, let's remove my redundant keys. If you happen to, let's say, drag this pose to a different part of your timeline, right? If you drag that, you have to know that there's not going to be a value on every single key anymore, since after you've ran that, all the redundant keys are gone. It's just something to keep in mind. before you do that. This is great for like when you're blocking and you have like your whole character selected and you're going through and you're hitting S everywhere. Especially on like the channels you're not even using, like the shapes or like maybe the visibility or even sometimes the scale. You can use remove redundant keys or even use remove static anim curves, right? Let's say if, ooh, yes, do I have an, no, I don't. Darn it, okay. Here, no. All right, let's say for example that when I was going through and doing this, actually I think there's only one channel, yeah, all right. Let's say, yeah, okay, let's say this guy. Let's say when I was going through and doing my blocking, I have a bunch of curves. I have a bunch of keys. And you can see that these don't move. There's no value change. And the only curve I'm really using is Z. By removing the redundant keys or removing static anim curves, it should get rid of all that actually. Not unless there's some kind of thing that I'm not seeing. That's a new one. I was just using this too. And remove static. Let me look at my notes real quick, sorry. Yeah, that should remove these. Because what it does is just like with the remove redundant keys, it'll look for values that are unchanging, right? And you can tell that this doesn't change at all. So technically it should remove that. I'll look into that one a little bit more. I'm going to delete that for now. Okay. Reverse animation. It does exactly what you might expect it, or it does exactly what you expect it to do. It reverses your animation. And I think actually you can do it by section also. Let's see. Let's say if I want to reverse this. Ta-da. He's going the other way. But let's say for some reason right here, I want to reverse it. You can tell that it's not smart in that way that it won't reverse from the point at which you're doing it from. It'll kind of average out, like probably like somewhere like here. And it'll kind of, you know, adjust from there, from its average. There we go. It'll kind of reverse from its average. Smart key, this is cool. So I actually have, normally when I hit S, I have my S bound to a smart key as opposed to the Maya key. So what's nice about the smart key is that when you're going through, let's say, here, you can tell here that like I've edited my tangent handles, right? And so if I hit like a normal keyframe, it'll probably mess this up. Yeah, there, you can see like there's a hitch. If you use a smart key, oops, my bad, nah, my shortcuts. If you use a smart key, it should not affect that. I wonder if it's because technically it's supposed to be just like inserting a key. Let's try this. Oh man. And you know what? I'm gonna allow you guys to unmute yourselves. Have you guys run into this before? Do you guys use Smart Key at all?
We haven't used it yet.
Oh, okay.
I haven't used. No.
Okay. I wonder if it's because it's 2018. That shouldn't matter though. essentially when you hit smart key or when you use a smart key, it's not supposed to affect these curves at all. Well, another thing about smart key is that
maybe it's the same thing that does with the mirror and reverse animation. If the tangents are on manual, it's not gonna work properly. But
no,
if you have a preset, they're gonna work. Maybe, I don't know. With reverse animation, it's like that.
Well, the concept behind a smart key is that it takes into the account with the tangent handles that have been moved already, so that it will essentially work as insert key as opposed to like just the S key. Maybe I have to have it selected. Nope, didn't work either. Excuse me, guys. I'm going to write that one down. What was it? Remove redundant keys, right? This is actually great. I'm kind of like debugging. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and move on from that. I'm not quite sure what's working with that. I'm not quite sure what's wrong with that, but we'll start from right here. I only use the smart go to previous key or previous frame or next key or next frame around when I'm polishing. And it helps a lot when you have a lot of curves that are kind of offset and you don't have a key on every single frame. Let's see. Let's see if I can find a good example. I think this one. Here we go. Okay, so normally when you step through these keys, right, you would get a keyframe on, you'd get a keyframe on Z, or I'm sorry, you would go to all through these keyframes only because there's a keyframe on Z, but there's no keyframe on RX. And you know what? I haven't tried this with a character set yet. I wonder how that works. I wonder if that's in documentation. Sorry. Okay. Let's go over frame first. So if you go to smart go to next frame or go to previous frame, have you guys worked on or with rigs that are actually really, really heavy? And when you step through them, and you know, it'll take a while to evaluate because every key you step on, it'll evaluate in the viewport. So if you go, it won't work with this guy because he's super, super light. But if you use smart next frame and previous frame, it's only going to evaluate as many times as you hit it. So let's say your character is super heavy, right? And like stepping through takes forever, right? And you know you want to go to maybe 6 frames, right? If you hit this 6 times, it doesn't. This isn't a good example because, like I said, he's light. But you can hit this 6 times, right? You'll go through 6 frames, but the only time the viewport will evaluate is after you stop clicking. Does that make sense? So you can hit that 6 times, you'll go ahead 6 frames, and it won't evaluate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It'll only evaluate frame 6. So you can jump through your time slider, you can jump through your range slider quicker by like framing through that way. And it won't evaluate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It'll just evaluate where you stop hitting go to smart go to next frame or previous frame. Cool. Let me see. Oh, same with the keyframe. If you flip through keyframes like this and your character is super heavy, or let's say that you're in polishing and like you turn your character up, you turn the character detail up like 3, and you know, you guys are on like subdivision 3, or maybe even past that, depending on like what you're working on. Then it'll only evaluate after you stop after you stop hitting smart go to next keyframe or smart go to previous keyframe. You know, sorry, let's go to, smart go to previous color key and next color key. It's pretty much the same thing. It won't evaluate until you're finished clicking it. Like I said, you can hit this. It's a bad example, but you can hit this however many times, and it'll only evaluate after you stop clicking it. Super good for heavy models. Snap keys, the smart snap keys is, I like this one better than the one in Maya, only because sometimes, like when you retime things, it'll be on a subframe, but using the Maya snap, you won't get, a lot of the time it won't snap to whole frames, even if you have like the whole frames setting like selected. That, and it won't alter your values. So let's say, for example, that I want to adjust, let's say my TY, right? And then let's say we're going to make all of these breakdowns. And then it's so interesting that it doesn't reflect in the, and then I'm going to squash this. And then you can see now if I step through, these are on subframes. It's a great way to retime, but you know, these are on subframes and that's no good. So you select these and you use smart snapped keys. They're supposed to be now on whole frames, but I think it's just because I have TY selected. I didn't snap any of these. Pop. Oops, pop. There we go. Cool. I showed you guys that trick, by the way, right? Converting some keys to breakdowns and then retiming that way. It's a great way to retime without having to futz with like bringing keys over and then adjusting the amounts or the values. Super, super handy. Especially when you're in like blocking or splining phases. A great way to do it is, one thing that I do a lot, or that I've found myself doing quite a bit is, let's say I need to just retime this whole thing. And it's not polished yet or anything, right? I'll just select the whole thing, and I'll make all of these breakdowns. Keys convert to breakdown, and then let's say I'll drag that in just to make it faster. And then after that, I'll bake my keys like on 2s, and then like I'll have my end frame at 15, assuming this was working correctly. And you might notice that a lot of the suggestions that I have, or a lot of the techniques I have, they're very destructive. As much as possible, don't be too precious, or don't get too attached to your keyframes or your curves, because God knows that it changes a lot. All right. Sorry, I must sound like a really like jaded person. All right, let's go over the channel box extras. Let's go ahead and do this. Okay. So okay, channel box multi-selection helper. I don't know if, actually, let me see. No, this one. Oh, here we go. Okay, this might work. So when you select a number of controls, right? Most of the time, or more often than not, the only shapes that are represented right here are of the last controller that you selected, right? Let's say this one's got like a parent space of left leg, right? And this one's got a parent space of right leg. But if I select this one first and I select this one second, I'm only going to get the last control that I selected represented here in my channel box. So if I hit this, ta-da, I get both. And that'll actually happen with as many things as you select. See? Feetsies. Hips. I don't think these things have anything special. Maybe this guy? Nope. But yeah, this could be super handy, and it's just as simple as like leaving this ticked on. Oh, this is super handy too. So I don't know how many of you guys do this, or I don't know how many of you guys animate this way. I personally animate this way a lot. When I animate, it's actually the way I did this. Actually, let me open up the default example again. When I did this, I'm gonna have to stop, or I get to stop doing that now that I'm going over the tool today. I do these one channel at a time, a very layered approach. So I started with my TY, then I did my TZ, and then I did my TX, and then I did my rotates, right? RY, RZ, I did them one at a time. And when I do them, I have the channel selected while I'm going through it, right? So let's say you're going through it, and then you forget that you have this selected. What this does is it will clear that as soon as you're done, as soon as you click the manipulator, or as soon as you, I believe, set a key. So if I touch it again, it should clear it. If I had it. Oh, there you go. You can see that it cleared. Did you guys see that? So I have this selected, and then once that you see, it'll clear my TY. Whereas if I don't have it, it'll stay there. And whenever I set a key, depending on what your set key settings are, if you have your set key only set to whatever's highlighted in the channel box, right? Let's say you have, like you want to put a key here, and then if you hit S, if you have your set key only set to TY, the only key that you're going to get is on TY because this is still selected. This will clear it automatically as soon as you do anything. There. So it's pretty handy. If you find yourself making that mistake or having made that mistake, it's nice to just leave checked on. It's not really something that you have to go back and like, hit every time like a button. Like this. If you don't want that turned on, or let's say I have TY, here we go, TY and RX, right? Because these two are very, they correlate with one another really closely, right? The TY and the RX. And so, simply enough, if you want to clear it, there's just that button. Nothing special about that. Okay, channel box selection timeline highlight. Let's see. So if I have that keyed, this is already checked on by default, and all this does is, you see how the timeline turns blue? Right now I have no channel selected, so it stays gray. When I have that selected, or when I have a channel, something selected in the channel box, it'll tint blue. When it tints blue, it just lets me know that I have something in the channel box selected. That way, the auto clear thing won't happen to me. Or it'll let me know that like I have to select other ones if I want to key other channels. Graph editor stuff. This is pretty cool. Auto hide static anim curves. I actually don't like putting this on, only because I like to keep my curves clean. And so when I start, right, I'm hitting S all the time. That's keying all the channels. If I have this on, I find that I tend to forget that I have the other keys keyed. And so when it comes time to clean up, right, here, let's say for this one, for example. There we go. Got a bunch of keys, right? If I have hide static on, see, there it goes again. what it's supposed to do is it's supposed to evaluate that there are no changes happening between these frames. And so these should be hidden because there's no change happening. I don't know why that's happening. Do you guys use this tool at all? Yeah, it's a quality of life tool, but I'm going to take note of, man, I've been running into quite a bit, but I'm going to take note of everything that I've been running into. Technically, since these curves are static, meaning nothing's happening, there's no change happening, these are supposed to be hidden. Framing current second and next second, I don't think will work here because this is only a second long. If you have like a longer timeline, let's say, I don't know if that's funny. Cool. I actually don't know if this will work because I don't have anim pass there. Let's try it. I guess it works. But yeah, I mean, it's not really useful for me because there's nothing here. Yeah, okay. Pretty much what this does is it calculates, first of all, what frame rate you're running at, whether it's 30 or 60 or 24. And in the graph editor, it'll frame that second around the frame that you're on, right? So 1 second past 63, which is pretty much 24 frames past 63, which is what, 87? Yeah. I don't quite find this useful. Again, when I'm stitching, I like to work in things in sections, let's say 50 frames by 50 frames. And once I've done my pass of everything in sections, let's say I have everything in step, I'm in blocking. And I go to spline and I spline everything 50 frames at a time. After I've done my whole timeline, I'll go through and I will, I'll find out where to finesse, like where I stitch those together, right? So if I'm working from 1 to 50, and then after I spline this, I worked from 50 to 100, I'll know that around frame 75, that's going to need a little bit of massaging. So I'll go like from 25 to 75, right? Because the stitch there originally where I stopped working was around 50, and where I started again was around 50 to 100. I can see that being useful, like in that sense. But again, you know, it's not something that I personally use. Manipulate extra tools. Okay. You know, it's not something that I personally use, but since I like to use just the left-click marking menu, but this will just toggle between the different spaces that you have. So you can see the different spaces. Oh, and by the way, everybody knows how to get to the different spaces in their manipulator, right? Through the hotbox. Okay. Okay, cool. You can see that there's a bunch of options at the spaces that you can use. The normal spaces are like object, world, so on and so forth, right? Component. This one is object, world, and gimbal and component. This pretty much just toggles. It toggles the manipulator in the space that it toggles the manipulator to the next space that is possible to move in, right? Object, world, component, gimbal. Yeah, not something I use, but I could see it being handy. This one's pretty cool, axis oriented camera, but be careful with this one. Only because, let's say you are, you have a character, I'm trying to think of a good example. Because what it does is it'll align the axis that you're working with, or it'll align the manipulator that you're working with towards the camera. It'll create an aim it won't create an aim, but it'll act like it's creating an aim towards the camera. So you'll be working in camera space. So you can see, here we go. You can see that my dude is a little bit off of camera, right? So if I access the orient to camera, it's exactly in line with my shot cam. So you'll see that my manipulator changed, right? My Z will go directly to the camera. And the reason I say be careful is that this tool very much promotes favoring the camera or posing or animating to the camera. And you know, I say be careful because if you don't constantly check in other viewports and stuff, something's going to look off. Maybe your motion blur might look off depending on your production. You know, for one reason or another, it might look off. This one's pretty cool. Access to orient it to the last selected. I can see this being useful when maybe you're rotating like a group of objects and like they're in a specific hierarchy, and you want the access to align to a certain controller. Let's say like you have a bunch of controllers on a tail, and the tail's like this. If you want like the access from the one that's curved at the top, you know, you would select that one last. So I'll say, for example, that I don't know why you would want this, but let's say for that sake, right? Actually, no, they're all in the same space, so that wouldn't matter. Maybe rotation? No, because I'm using the heel. Maybe this one? Okay, I'm just gonna mess this up for example's sake. All right, there we go. Cool. What this will do is it'll orient the axis to the last selected. And so the point at which you're rotating is now matching the last thing that you selected. Again, this is really like specific use. I can't really see it being used like all the time. Another good use for it actually would probably be, let's say, if your character is holding something and you need to slide the hand along that object, right? Whether it's like the grip of a sword or whether it's like a gun. You know, if you select your hand, you select your gun, right? And then you hit axis orient to last selected, you'll get to move the hand in the space of the gun. Hopefully, though, you won't have to actually do that since, you know, it should have been set up properly. Cool. Alrighty. Selection extra tools. Excuse me. Okay. This is nice for, again, like when you're selecting your whole character and you've worked the way that I've worked, you know, doing it one channel at a time, and you don't necessarily need like maybe this, or maybe there's another control, or there's another control that you don't want to have to bother with. Then, you know, selecting the whole group and then deselect non-keyed objects, that's good for that. Deselecting static objects. Now, it should be noted that there's the big difference between the two is that one has no keys on them, the other has keys on them, but there's just no evaluation happening. All the keys are the same. This is great for if you want to actually like adjust or maybe export animation or anything. Selecting everything in the scene, everything that's keyed anyway. Select hierarchy. This is, I don't think this is any different from Maya select hierarchy. Let me check my notes. Yeah, I don't think this is any different from Maya's select hierarchy. And actually, there's no hierarchy to this dude, so it doesn't even matter. Okay, select rig controls. This is normally smart. Actually, let's see if it works with this guy, because I don't know if this guy's naming conventions are great. Yep. Yeah. normally what this will do is it'll kind of evaluate, it'll look for like a common namespace. More than likely, it'll be like the name of the file if it's referenced in, or like some kind of a namespace that it's using amongst like, you know, the similar controllers. And it may be just because I haven't taken a snapshot. I don't think this needs a snapshot though. It'll try and find all of the actual controls of a rig. Timeline extras. These are pretty cool. So unfortunately, I don't have an example for this, but let's say you're animating something with dialogue or something with music. Normally when you have a waveform here, you guys are familiar with waveforms, right? I would assume so. Yes, okay. So normally when you get a waveform, you get the bottom half and the top half of the waveform, right? It emanates from a center going like this, right? If you just want to see the top or the bottom, or actually, I don't know if you can just see the bottom, but if you just want to see the top, like it looks like a mountain range, then you can use this to toggle on and off. Toggling the timeline height, you know, does exactly what you might expect it to. I don't know if you guys work like this. I don't. I like my timeline small, as it is right here. But I have friends that work, like their timeline is huge, and they don't have anything else but like the timeline in the viewport. But for some reason, it's like enormous. Messed up my windows. Oh, that's great. Sweet. All right, looks like it's gonna be that big from now on. No, just kidding. Yeah, okay. Auto load timeline sound. I don't think that this is much of a problem anymore. Normally when you have like audio filed in, right, sound here, normally when you have audio filed in, sometimes or for some reason in certain Maya versions it won't load automatically. Having this checked will kind of save it to the file, and so whenever you open it up, it'll know to auto load the sound. But I guess be careful if your auto file is huge for some reason, and it'll cause your scene to load slower than it normally does. I can't see that being the case though. Okay, this is the useful stuff that I use. And actually it's really just one tool, but all right. Here we go. So sync, isolate, select. If you have this selected, like I was saying last time, if you isolate select the normal Maya, it'll only isolate select that viewport, but having this turned on will isolate select in all the viewports at the same time. This is very handy, and I have this checked. This too, tumble around selection. Maya's tumble isn't always the most intuitive, especially like if your scene is huge. And this happens to me a lot because you know, when I was at cinematics, I would get big shots with a lot of characters. And you know, if I'm way, way, way far from origin, and you know, I don't have anything selected, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes I'll get some kind of weird orbit in the camera that I'm viewing in. So having this on really helps. Like if I need to navigate quickly, let's say I'm starting my anim here and I need to navigate quickly here, I'll just select the controller and I'll still be able to rotate around here. Whereas sometimes, like if you don't have this on, it'll try and orbit maybe around somewhere near the origin, even if like you're off the origin. Let's see, playback visibility mode. What this will do is it'll, well, I guess I can just go ahead and show you, but it'll pretty much turn everything off aside from polygons. I don't like this because sometimes there'll be like other things in the scene that I need to see, whether they're locators or whether they're sometimes with curves. Oh, and it turns off your ground grid too. You know, I don't quite like that. And invisibility mode, it'll only leave on geometry and curves. That way, when you're working, you get like a, you know, a condensed viewport. This is the toggle for geometry. It does exactly what you would expect it to do. And all of these do exactly what you would expect it to do. And it's actually similar to showing here in the viewport on and off. And you can see that it's only working in the viewport that's active. It's not like the isolate select that'll happen in all viewports. The ones that I have bound normally are the curves. Controllers. I hope there's one for controllers. Oh yeah, here we go. Controllers. Depending on how your rig is set up, sometimes they use just normal curves. Sometimes they use locators, which are considered, or like different types of locators, which can be considered controllers. Yeah. Oh, and this one too. Toggle grease pencil. I'll use grease pencil quite a bit. I know not a lot of people do, but it's a pretty big part of my workflow. This one too, motion trails. Like I said, I love the motion trail tool. I use that a lot, toggling them on and off. I have that bound to a shortcut as well. Let's see, is there anything here that's out of the ordinary? Display manipulators is what you would expect it to do. Toggle display the grid. The HUD, it might work here better. Holdouts. Let's find out what holdouts are. That one I'm not familiar with. Let's see. And it might be because, yeah, I'm not quite sure what holdouts do. Yeah, that's one thing I haven't used. Anybody know? Or anybody use toggle holdouts? And toggle display selection highlighting. This is okay. I don't really find a need for it with isolate select, but you know, it'll pretty much do what you expect it to. What I do like to do, actually, let me clarify this. This is kind of a tip. I don't know if you guys will ever run into this. Maybe if you do video game cinematics, it'll help. But when you're doing in-game cinematics, and you have to be very careful of the geometry clipping each other. There's no kind of cleanup. There's no cheating. There's no nothing. You got to make sure, and you got to babysit that and make sure that the meshes don't intersect. Something that I like to do is I will cast some of these objects into a layer, and then I'll turn this green, say for example, and then I'll put wireframe on shaded. And then let's say, like, I need to babysit this for some reason, or these, right? I'll put these in another one, and I'll turn this red. Only because red and green are opposite colors, and I can see clearly, and at a glance, where penetrations might be happening. If you guys ever have to, you know, clean up, which I hope you don't, because it's not very fun. And I think that pretty much covers the extra tools. And I'm actually kind of bummed that some of these didn't work like they were supposed to, because these ones are kind of like the ancillary ones. Yeah, I mean, that's the extra tools. Did you guys have any questions regarding those? If not, I can go over some of the scripts that I use outside of Animbot. And I can share some of those with you if you guys want. Okay, cool. Let's see. Can one of you do me a favor? Can one of you try and unmute? I just want to make sure this works.
Hello.
Oh, okay, cool. Sweet. Hello, 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 hello. Alrighty. The scripts that I use, I like, and you know what? For this specifically, I'm going to go into my Maya, where all my shortcuts and everything's are. So let me open up a new Maya. Some free scripts outside of Maya that I use are, I'm just gonna, I'll probably just go over 4. I don't use very many ones outside of Animbot. But there are some that live here in this thing that you guys might have seen pop up every now and again. This is kind of like a tool set or like a collection of scripts that I wrote and that I keep. Move my post-it note real quick. Oops. Okay. Still thinking. Yep. Probably still loading Animbot. And it might be because this one's still open. Wow. Maybe I shouldn't have done this. Jeez. Right. Let me just open up 2018. I think I still have it here. Yep. Cool. Okay. One thing that I like to use, Serge, you may have seen me use this in the last class or in Anim Team. I like to use this might be outdated by now, but I like to use a script called Piranha. Piranha is a project folder manager. So it allows you to browse through different projects quickly. So let's say this was from the Anim Team workshop, right? And so this is in your left pane right here. It'll show your different projects. And then you can see here that these are sorted by folder. So this is my environments folder. This is my layout folder. That's my rigs folder. That's my shots folder, so on and so forth. You know, and it's a great way to flip or switch between projects quickly. I'll hit right-click Set Project, and then it'll set it for me. And then if I want to open up a certain file, I can just double-click it. And then if you go up here, it'll show you the directories that you're pulling your projects from. So let's say you have a folder, like a work folder or like an animation folder where you put all of your Maya projects in. If you put that directory here, you'll see all of your projects populate this window, this pane. And you know, once you switch projects, it'll show you if you have a standard Maya project folder, it'll show you everything in your scenes folder. You can show incremental save if you want. I don't, because I have a lot of files already. Here we go. Exclude incremental save. Yeah, I don't use caches. Subdirectories I normally put only because, like, inside scenes, I have my rigs, my anim, my environment, my layout, just like you see here. I'll try and find links for all this, by the way, and then I'll put them in chat at the end of class. Let's see. Oops. Where's my sticky notes? That was Piranha. The align tool that I use. You guys may have seen me use this already. No. Uh-oh. Let's say this one. Cool. This is a really old align script tool, but the reason I like it is that I don't have to go anywhere in order to use it. Like, I don't have to pull up a UI, or I don't have to push a button or anything like that. I want this to go to here, and then it's in a marking menu, and I can choose just translates, just rotates, just scale. I can choose all, or I can choose a specific channel if I want. Yeah, and like I said, like, it's great for like putting things places, and you know, it's great for you know, it's great for working on the fly, right? Oh no, I want that to go to that, and then just rotation. Yeah. Piranha align tool. Oh, okay. I have a script and it's not a fancy script. All it does pretty much is like if you select an object and then I have it bound to, or I used to have it bound to a shortcut. Oh no. Oh no, what happened? Sorry, a second. Oh, this is 2018. Maybe that's why. Did my 2017 come back to me? Oh, it did. Okay, cool. Let's say I have this. There we go. My rename. I have it bound to a shortcut, and it's just a rename object script. Really simple. I hate when things aren't named properly. I have I guess I'm OCD in that sense. I need to rename everything and make sure everything is named properly, which is why you could understand why I made this script. Okay, this one's super useful. So I have a script that will, oh, actually, wait. Maybe it'll work here. Let me try. Where's my outliner? There we go. Cool. And let's see if it'll work. Ah, yes, it does work. Okay, cool. So let's say, for example, I have a locator or I have something, right? Let's say I need to align it to, let me make something else. There we go. And then let's say that's pointing that way for some reason. Okay, cool. I need to align this to this, right? And so I'll align it like I do. And then I want to be able to animate from this space, right? And so normally what you would do is you would create a null node. That way the node will be aligned, but you will have zeroed out translates, rotates, and scales, right? So the traditional way of doing this would be, right, you create a group and then you use the group to align it here. That way inside the group you have this. You have the cube and you have zero. You have zeroed out translates and rotates, right? That'd be the traditional way of doing it. Let's say, for example, that for some reason you find yourself with only one node, right? And I'll align it. And then you don't want to have to go back to zero and have to align it again. Or let's say that you have it in a very specific setup, right? You adjusted the aim yourself and you want a null node above it, but you don't want to move this anymore. What this script does, let's say first, what I'm going to do is I'll rename this. Let's say animated box. And box. Yes, with a big O, whatever. Okay. I have a tool that will create the null node above it. It will retain the naming information, but just add the suffix of _ GRP, which means group, right? So if I hit it, you'll notice in my outliner, it gives me my null node, and it gives me the same name convention with just _ group, and now I have this at zeroed out. And now this gives me what I want without having to backtrack. I love this script. I use this one a lot, especially with like locators. Let me see, what's a good example of this? I know. Let's say you have a bunch of things pointing at a certain direction, Oh, and I should note, right, that you can do this for more than one thing. Let's say I have my cone. Oops, my rename script is not in 2018. Animated cone, and then like I'll duplicate these, right? And then these are looking different directions, right? And let's say these are bullets for some reason, right? And you want to animate them in the direction that they're facing, right? But you don't want to have to calculate, or you need a certain set of values, right? From 0 to 100 or something. You can pretty much like select all of them, and you can use group each select, or the group, I call it group each selection. See, and it'll do it for each of them. That way these are all at 0 now, and they still retain the null nodes. Yeah, I love that tool. That one, and let's say there's another version of that I have. If you want to, let me see if it'll work like this. Let's say I group these, and then oh, okay. Let's say I have one under here, and I need, let's say this guy is parented to this guy, right? Actually, for example's sake, this might be easier if I do it like this. Let's say my cone belongs to my box, right? Actually, let me try. Yeah, there we go. See? You see how if I try and make a null node just by grouping it, it'll automatically go to this guy, which I think will happen again. Actually, I can use group which selection here. It'll give me that. It'll work within a parent. If I need a null node underneath that matches this for some reason, I have a script for that too. It'll give me that same set. I find this one a lot less useful. I think I made it because there was a certain point at which I needed something like this, but I normally use my other script more, the group each selection. That's really it. I don't really use anything fancy. I use a lot of 2D stuff. That's just because of the way that I work. I'll use Krita. If you guys have heard of Krita, it's a free 2D animation software. A lot of the times when I work or when I'm doing a shot, I'll do it in 2D first, only because it's quicker for me that way, and I can show the director really quickly, and I can show multiple versions quickly, and I can get my ideas bought off on. That way, you know, if my ideas are bought off on, execution is the easy part, right? Thinking of the idea and getting the idea bought off on is the more time-consuming part. And so I'll show like 3 or 4 versions of the same shot, and it'll only take me a day to do all those. But that's really it. Did you guys have any questions?
Not for the moment.
Maybe one.
Sure.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I can share those scripts with you guys, by the way. The rename tool and the group each selection tool, if you guys are interested.
Yeah.
Cool, thanks.
When you show the select channel auto clear from Animbot, the select channel, the channel box auto clear, the one.
The smart keys?
No, the auto clear, where if you select one single channel, then it's gonna remove
oh, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, the auto clear.
Yeah, the auto clear.
Mm-hmm.
So this is supposed to work only if I have the timeline synced with the channel box.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I just had that kind of question.
Yeah, sure. And again, it's pretty specific. Not everybody works that way. I do. You know, it helps a lot, but May not work for everybody. Okay, let me go ahead and put those scripts in the chat. If you guys are interested in, are you guys interested at all in the Align tool and Piranha? I can share that as well if that's something that you guys want.
Yeah, that one will be good with the group.
The group, sure, yeah, no problem.
It's amazing.
You know what? I think I will attach it to the Thinkific because I have the MEL files here. Rename, group each selection. Okay. Were you guys interested at all in the Align tool or Piranha? If you guys are, I can try and find that. But if not, then, you know, that's cool too.
For me, no worries. I
Okay.
will try to.
Oh, I'm sorry, there's another thing that I use quite a bit. Let me see. Let me see if this will work. There we go. Cool. This is for when I'm creating my own rigs. I have tools, or I have just these. They're pretty much just a set of controllers. That way I don't have to make my own custom controls. If I want a box, if I want a square, if I want a circle, a triangle, a cross, you know, it'll give me all these. This one's cool too. If I want a pentagon or a sphere, and then if I want to color them, or enable override first. There you go. It's a really quick way to create controls and to color them. And I use, have you guys heard of the comment tools? This is pretty old by now, I think. One I like particularly is Comet Rename. Again, with the renaming. I like to, I find this really useful when I'm doing rigging and I have to rename joints like in a chain. Like if I need to do like tail joint, and I can start with the frame padding at 2 and I start at number 1 for some reason. It'll name it in consecutive order for me, in the order that I have them selected, by the way. And you can add suffixes, add prefixes to multiple objects that are selected. This is nice too, especially if if you get your left and rights wrong. I will note though that I don't know why, but some rigs are set up screen left and screen right, and not character left and character right. This is handy for that in case you ever run into a rig like that. Yeah. Okay, cool. I mean, I can share those the rename tool and the group script with you guys. But that pretty much wraps it up. That is our
One more question.
Sure, sure. Yeah, yeah.
When you use both colors, do you know which one gets priorities? I mean, before you had like both breakdowns and red keys on your timeline, and you actually selected like more than one controls, and it showed just red controls, red key. Sorry, so you didn't see the green, the breakdowns. Right?
Correct.
In the timeline. Do you know how? I mean, it's always like that. It's always red keys have priorities on breakdowns when it's going to be shown in the timeline, or I don't know.
I think so, but it may be just because of the last selected. Let's try. So.
Okay.
Let's see. No, I'm pretty. Yeah, it seems like keyframes have priority. Yeah.
Because I'm trying to figure that out with yellow keys and red keys, and I cannot really understand how it goes to it's showing me one instead of the other one. So I was just wondering there. Okay.
Is there a reason why you would only need to see?
Well, I used the yellow key as my extreme, and I used the red keys for breakdowns in the middle.
Do you key everything on the same frame?
Yeah, for blocking, yes.
Okay.
So the thing is, many times when I'm working, I have actually two hotkeys. One is the classic S, the other one is Alt S, which is for yellow keys. But sometimes I like make a mistake and I click, I don't know, Alt S instead of S, or maybe I just move the keys, keeping still everything on the same frame. And so after a little bit, in my timeline, it's not really, I don't know, sorted out correctly. Sometimes I can see only red keys, even if I know I have some of them on yellow keys. You know? So, and I don't know why. But so if I select, I don't know, only the arm, maybe I can see the yellow keys, but if I select the whole character, I see only red keys. And I don't know which one gets priorities and why.
So, say for example, these are your three controls.
Yeah.
And you technically would have these as yellow keys for extremes. If all of these keys are yellow, then you would see the yellow. The only reason you'd see red here instead of yellow is because one of your controls has a normal keyframe as opposed to the yellow keyframe. But you said you key everything on the same frame, right?
Yes, but sometimes I move them.
Oh, I see. So so you
that's
offset them sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
I see.
But,
okay. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I do know if they're not all the same color, then keyframes do get priority.
Because what I do now is just rekey them on the same frame with the right color.
After the offset.
Yes.
For sure.
That's fine anyway.
Do you guys have any other questions? Well, okay. That kind of brings us to the end of our class. Thanks for sticking around, guys. Thanks for showing up. I really appreciate it. I know this wasn't the most like sexy class, but you know, I still appreciate you guys showing up, and I still appreciate you guys like sticking around. Hopefully, you guys were able to learn some stuff from it. You know, it's a pretty fundamental class. You know, there are some things that some people don't quite understand, like the concept of 3D space and the concept of like gimbal and maybe like the entire pipeline that I did go over. But it sounds like you guys all have a pretty good understanding of that, which I'm glad about. So that was great. If you guys are looking for something maybe a little bit more, maybe, you know, I do, or hopefully you guys did enjoy your time with me, and you know, if you're looking to join another class with me, the promotions for the next class I'll be teaching will be coming up pretty soon, if you guys are interested at all. So
if you mean the action class, it's already out.
The action workshop, yes. I don't know. I don't know if it is.
I already seen it. I'm already thinking of.
Oh,
doing it.
I didn't even know. Well, thank you, sir.
Actually, I have just one question about that one.
Sure.
About the rigs.
Yeah.
The licensing. How does that work? It's the same with, like with toy.
No. So at the moment, from what I understand, man, that was an uphill battle, but we got it done, thank God. And I'm really glad that you guys are going to be able to use them, and I'm really happy that it ended up working out. So, you sign up for the class, right? and you get licenses for all 3. Those licenses are yours. They do not, from what I understand, they do not expire. After you leave the class, you bring them with you.
It's another reason to join the class.
Well, good. I hope to see you in there, man.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be last there, 90%.
Awesome. Sounds good.
I'm sorry, I didn't get which class is this, because there's something I actually see in the
Dynamic
I
action.
last 2 classes. What?
Yeah, it's a dynamic action workshop. It's pretty
Okay, dynamic action. Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty catered to my forte with working at Blizzard for so many years. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it's live. Sweet. Yep, here it is. Cool. Yeah. If you guys are interested at all, the way I kind of structure like my actual workshops, not necessarily this one, is you know, we'll go over animation inspiration. There's a lecture portion. There's a workflow portion. There's a workshop portion where we actually workshop everybody's shots together. And then afterwards, I'll stick around and answer any questions you guys have. And, you know, I always try and leave room for any demos that you guys want to see. Like if there's something specific that you guys want to know about that I'm not covering in that class, I specifically and intentionally leave time open in the syllabus to address those kinds of things. In the Anim Team Workshops case, Serge can speak to this. You know, people wanted a lip sync demo. So the very last class, I did one, as opposed to having a pre-prepared lecture for that week. That's what I did instead. But yeah, I hope to see as many of you as I can there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Steven, for everything.
Well, yeah, I really hope that it helped. If you guys have any other questions, you guys can still reach out to me on Slack. If you guys want me to look at anything, I'll be more than happy to look at it.
I have one question.
Sure.
Like in production.
Uh-huh.
How many time it take like to rig like a character, like a complex character?
Okay, so you're speaking specifically for. Can you give me an example? Maybe like one of the Blizzard characters, and I can kind of tell you. Or maybe like are you speaking of like a cinematic character, or maybe a character?
Yeah, like a cinematic character, full character face, everything.
Okay.
Like if they use plugin or it's manually.
So most of the time, if it's for a big studio, they have a proprietary tool that will help them with rigging. Same with Blizzard. Blizzard has their own as well. They have a proprietary tool that will help them create their rigs. Even then, the rigs are never 100% finished, only because the needs of each shot are very, very different. And so during the lifetime of production, animators will go to the riggers and ask for certain features. You won't always get them, but if you ask for them, and then if enough people ask for them, you know, they'll get pushed up in the priority list, and those notes will get addressed. And so, you know, they're never 100% done, but most of the time it takes months to get a cinematic character properly done. And I should say, it's not just one person. It takes a team. More often than not, like the entire team works on multiple characters at a time. But let's say for one character, it might bounce between 2 people or 3 people, maybe, depending on the complexity of the character. And it takes months, you know, like not days, not weeks, but like months.
Yeah, it's kind of hard.
Yeah. Cool.
Actually, that is it.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks, guys.